mysterious hotel hides a deadly secret.
Help me.
I saw a murder.
Isn't it possible that you imagined all this?
Checking in is easy,
Looking for something, sweetie? What's up there, Letty?
but checking out can be murder.
Help me!
James Brolin, John Karlen, Louise Fletcher, and LA Law's Michele Greene. When the elevator stops, the nightmare begins. Nightmare on the 13th floor. A USA world premiere movie.
Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1990 TV movie Nightmare on the 13th Floor. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on this film, I want to give a special shout out to Sebastian for requesting this review. And he also has a YouTube channel named El Movie Master, so check that out if you want to see some more reviews. I will put his channel in the video description down below so you can take a look at it for yourself if you want to do so. And if there is a film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will also be in the video description down below. Now, Nightmare on the 13th Floor is a relatively obscure made-for-television horror film. It deals with a reporter who goes on a trip to a hotel, and it starts out rather innocuously. She writes for, I think, like a home and lifestyle magazine or something, and then she uncovers a series of murders, a series of people who go missing and wind up dead, and then she starts to investigate and discovers a pretty dark, twisted past when it comes to the hotel, which involves a serial killer and a potential deal with the devil and a hidden floor, which is the 13th floor, which is a floor at the hotel that is not accessible in an easy fashion and is considered to be non-existent for pretty much anyone that comes to the hotel. But she uncovers the truth, and she has to find a way to stop the killings and also save herself. The film is directed by Walter Grauman, who's a guy who was a lifer when it comes to television work. He's the kind of guy who did mostly TV movies, mostly episodes of TV shows, really didn't do a whole lot of feature films. He started out his career doing he did a low budget horror film in the 50s, and he had, I think, maybe a couple other opportunities to do a feature film, but it never really panned out for him. So he just kept working in television. And I gotta be honest, I thought this direction was actually surprisingly good for a TV movie, especially for a guy who had been around the block so many times and didn't really do a lot other than television. I think this was at a point in his career where he had gained enough experience to really deliver a not necessarily impressive product, but a very serviceable and strong product. There are some nice shots in this film that involve POV or sequences that really do get the most out of the film's elaborate sets. There are a lot of stuff that goes on in the film's plot where the direction really needs to be dynamic, needs to be punchy, needs to have a certain amount of impact, and I feel that he did a good job with that, especially when it comes to a film that really couldn't do a whole lot when it comes to the violence. It was made for TV. It aired on the USA Network, so you can't really have a lot of blood, you can't have gore, so he had to really focus a lot on intensity. He had to focus a lot on atmosphere and mood, and I feel it was rather effective in that regard. There's some genuinely creepy looking shots in this film, and overall I thought it was a good movie when it comes to the direction. I thought he did a good job. It's better than your average TV movie, because a lot of TV movies don't really have a lot of cinematic qualities. They look very flat. They look a little lifeless. They lack that extra bit of energy or impact or uniqueness that you get from a cinematic film that was intended for theaters. And I think this has some moments that really do feel very theatrical. And I think it's definitely a testament to his genuine talent. I think maybe he might have done a better job with a feature film if anyone gave him a chance. And it makes me think that a lot of filmmakers, a lot of people who were stuck in television could have done just as good of a job as some of the guys who kept working in major studio capacity when it comes to theatrical features. I think that the people who were stuck in television, I think they probably could have done just as good of a job, but they just never really were given that opportunity, because there's only so many filmmakers and so many films that are made for theaters, and there's just so many openings that are available. So you can have people that are very capable, but they're not always going to necessarily get that opportunity, especially over somebody who already has a more proven track record. But when it comes to TV movies, directors like this, they will get a lot of opportunities. In some ways, maybe even more opportunities to direct and to make a film than a director who did a lot of work for studio films, but it just didn't work out, and his films never really got a lot of recognition. So yeah, definitely a film that features some solid direction, especially for the low budget and for the limitations. The script is by J.D. Feigelson and Dan DiStefano. For the most part, I don't mind the script. I think when it comes to some semblance of humor that it's trying to go for, I thought it was pretty lame, and I really feel that if it was going to really try to be humorous, I definitely feel that it should have had some better writing in that regard, because there really aren't any lines of dialogue or any moments involving anything that could be comedic that are really that memorable or that strong. The horror elements are very tame because of the limitations, because it's a made-for-TV film. But even then, that doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be a little bit more intense. I mean, there are some moments where it tries. I mean, there are some scenes that are a little bit grisly, especially for a TV movie, but if you compare it to something like Buried Alive with Tim Matheson, which in my opinion is a film that was made for TV, but it easily could have been released in the theaters. Compare it to that, it's really no contest when it comes to the intensity or the suspense or the fear factor. But this still has its moments where it's a little eerie, a little chilling, and so I would say the horror elements are more effective overall than some of the other elements of the script. And the mystery stuff, it has its moments, like the whole stuff with the devil worshipping, with the serial killer, and the whole idea that maybe he's still alive, and he's immortal, and he's killing people again. But then it goes into tired and true, predictable territory with some twists that I saw coming a mile away, which I didn't really care for. I would have preferred the film to actually have the killer be Avery Block, and he's hundreds of years old, and the people who are running the hotel, they keep giving him victims because they are hoping that they can also achieve immortality, or at the same time they're doing it so he doesn't kill them. I think that could have created a nice bit of extra suspense where it's like, well, we have to keep doing this, otherwise he's going to kill us. So that would have made things a little bit more interesting in some regards, instead of what they did with the doctor character where, oh no, he's the one that's doing it because he wants to deal with the devil and he wants immortality. And it was just like, okay, all right. I just wish it was just the serial killer. The guy he successfully made the deal with the devil, and he's immortal and he's still killing people. I thought that would be the best way to do it. And then maybe there would be something involving a ritual that goes wrong, or he doesn't kill the 16th victim in time, so then he winds up getting taken by the devil back to hell, that kind of thing. I just think that would have been more compelling and just more fun than what they ultimately went with. There are some moments too with the lead where she just is not written in a way where she's really that charismatic or that engaging of a character. Like, she's all right. She's not unlikable, but there's nothing really that makes you really like this character. I actually liked the police captain character a lot more. I felt that character had a little bit more going for him. Sergeant Madden, actually. It's not a captain, it's Sergeant Madden. I felt that there was more with that character when it comes to the script, so he was able to really leave more of a genuine impression. At least one that lasted longer and wasn't very fleeting like the lead, Elaine. And even a character like Letty, which is a villainous member of the hotel who is played by Louise Fletcher. Even that character had more going for it. Or even the architect, the stuff like it. I don't know. Was she an architect? Kerry Noonan's character, Gail Myers. She played this woman who works at a company. I think she works for the state, and they're involved with doing a lot of investigations into the safety of hotels and stuff like that. I liked her character, and I actually would have been fine if she was the lead, because there was a little bit more with her too. It's just, I just felt that the character of Elaine was just bland and boring, and the script didn't do the best job really making her stand out. She was there to just push the plot along and to be this investigator, and she was also there to have some doomed romance with Dr. Alan Lanier, played by James Brolin. And I don't know, I just didn't really find the romance that effective, or a lot of the stuff involving her. And when I really think about it, this whole film should have been a Kolchak the Night Stalker movie. This has the perfect template for a new Kolchak film for the 90s. I mean, what was Darren McGavin doing in 1990? Captain America? Like, I'm pretty sure that he would have had the time to be able to do a new Kolchak film. I'm just thinking about how much better this film would have been if you had Darren McGavin as Kolchak the Night Stalker, and he was the one that was the reporter. He was the one that was investigating these mysterious disappearances at this hotel, and then he becomes the center of it all, and he becomes the next target and the next victim. And he teams up with the sergeant character, Sergeant Madden. And I just feel that would have really, really benefited this film immensely. Because you can take this template. It's so perfect for a Kolchak movie. You just take Kolchak, the character, you put him into this plot, and you have a potential classic. Instead, what you have here is an interesting, watchable, kind of fun TV movie that's got a nice concept of this 13th floor that's hidden away from all these people, where people wind up getting sent to the 13th floor and killed by some mysterious slasher. And it all culminates in a legitimately explosive finale. So it definitely has its merits when it comes to the script and the story overall, but I just think it just really sold itself short with such a bland and boring and forgettable lead, and this romance that didn't do anything for me. And it's just one of those things where it was relatively stock and standard in ways that I think let the film down. And if you just retooled this into a Kolchak film, it would have fixed so many of the film's problems and so many of the film's issues, because you would have a compelling, strong lead that you would root for and you would genuinely care about, and he could interact with all these people, and you could see Darren McGavin acting alongside actors like James Brolin and Louise Fletcher and Terri Treas. But it just wasn't meant to be. It didn't happen. Maybe they didn't think Kolchak was popular enough. I don't know. But it just seemed like one of those things where I just wish that happened, because I could just see it. Kolchak the Night Stalker. Nightmare on the 13th floor. A new Kolchak movie. A brand new Kolchak adventure. Tonight on USA. Like you could just, I mean, I just wanted more Kolchak. I think that's why. I was surprised we didn't get a Kolchak revival or Kolchak movies in the 90s for a company like USA. It seemed like something that was ripe for that kind of treatment. But anyway, the film features an alright cast. Michele Greene, she's okay, but nothing special. The script isn't really the best when it comes to making that character stand out, but she doesn't really do a whole lot to make the character stand out either. She doesn't really have that much charisma. She's a very bland, boring personality. She's okay. She's not unlikable by any means, but there's really not much to her. I only remember her, other than from this movie, I remember her in a movie called The Unborn 2, which was a sequel to a film called The Unborn, which was about, I think, like, killer babies, because there was something involving some kind of drug, miracle pregnancy drug, and of course it went wrong and caused the babies to be mutants. And it was a Roger Corman New Horizons production. I actually don't remember The Unborn being that bad. I actually thought The Unborn was better than this. I will say this, I think the Unborn 2 was worse than this. I will take this with Michele Greene over The Unborn 2. But yeah, Michele Greene, she's just there. John Karlen I liked as Sergeant Madden, the investigator who's roped into all of this. Louise Fletcher played a great bitch, like she always does, as Letty Gordon, this woman who works at the hotel who's up to no good. Alan Fudge played Mr. Rogas, this guy who, I think he's the guy who owns the hotel, but he's also in on the whole thing. James Brolin, he's charismatic and strong as ever. Like, maybe you could have just retooled it into James Brolin being the reporter and the investigator who gets involved in all of this, and switched things around and made Michele Greene be the doctor, or have her be Miss Rogas or something. I don't know. I think that's a waste of James Brolin to have him just be this doctor who's a romantic love interest, but then you really know that there's more to it, and you know that he's going to be the killer. Terri Treas, she was fine in her role as Judith, one of the other members of the hotel. I think she was like the main person who was involved with working with reporters and other people. She was like not the entertainment coordinator, but the kind of person who was involved with a lot of the PR when it comes to the hotel. You also had, I mentioned her when I was talking about the script because I liked the character of Gail Myers. Kerry Noonan, who was in Jason Lives. She was also, she played one of the girlfriends in that film. She played Paula. She was also in Misfits of Science as like a bit character, like a demonstrator. I remember her the most though from an episode of the 80s Twilight Zone called A Message from Charity. She played Charity Payne in that episode, and she was phenomenal in that episode. And I've always felt that she deserved, honestly, a lot better as an actress. Apparently, it just didn't work out for her. She got roles like this, but then afterwards, she didn't really get much work. And it wasn't paying the bills, and she was already working part-time, doing some other thing while she was acting. So she just decided once she got into her mid-30s to just retire from acting and become a school teacher and follow her dreams of being a teacher of mythology. And I think that's cool. More power to her. She got her doctorate. She got her degree. She's a professor. She's a doctor. Kerry Noonan now. So, and I think she passed away though. Which, it said was. She was born in 1960. It says she was, like she's deceased, but I don't know if that's really true. Yeah, she's just working as a professor at the University of California. So she's still around. Because she was interviewed for Crystal Lake Memories. Or his name was Jason. That's what she was interviewed for. But yeah, it was fun to see her again. I've always liked her as an actress, and she just never really panned out for her, sadly, which sucks, but it happens to a lot of actors in Hollywood. She just had that certain spunk, that certain charisma, that certain relatability to her, likability factor. So that's really the main cast. There are a few other people, but I'm just going to focus on those in terms of mentioning them. I mean, like I said, the cast does an alright job, especially for a TV movie. The film also features a score by Jay Gruska. It's serviceable. It's meh. It's just kind of your typical TV movie of the week score. I didn't think it was anything really that special, but it was fine for what it was and for what they were trying to do with it. Had cinematography by Tom Richmond, which for a TV movie, it wasn't terrific, but it wasn't terrible. It was above average, like the direction, because there were some nice looking shots in this film, especially when it's showcasing the vintage look of the 13th floor and the outside of the hotel. The editing was by Sidney Katz, and the editing I thought was pretty solid too. Some nice editing for a TV movie. Helped the film go by at a pretty quick pace. Definitely did enhance some of the scenes that were trying to be a little bit more suspenseful, a little bit more scary or creepy or atmospheric. I would say the editing definitely helped when it comes to the flow from scene to scene, as well as the scenes that were showcasing a murder. It still managed to give you that intensity that a kill really needs, even though you can't actually see anything, because you can't really do it because of the fact that it's a TV movie. But if you have an editor who's able to cut things at that right moment, then you can still have that chill factor. You can still have that moment of shock. And I feel that for the most part, this movie definitely had that. And it's like 90 minutes, but that's with, I believe that's with trailers, not trailers. I mean, that's with commercials. because the VHS is only like an hour and 20 something minutes. So I don't think it actually is 90 minutes overall, because the VHS rip that I saw was definitely not 90 minutes. It was like an hour and 20 something minutes. So at the end of the day, it's not a great film. I can see why it's been kind of forgotten about and been lost to time, and why it hasn't aired a lot on television. Like, it aired once in 1990 and maybe aired a few other times, but it wasn't really a big hit in that regard. It's not released on DVD, at least not officially, and definitely not in the United States. The VHS has been out of print for years. I have a copy of this film, but it's one of those movies that I have stuck in storage somewhere in another state. So I can't show it to you, but I know I have this movie because I got the VHS for cheap somewhere when I was living with my dad in Oklahoma City. And I got it because I was like, oh, that looks like it might be kind of interesting. And then it is. It's kind of an interesting film with the premise and the idea. I just feel that it could have been better. The TV limitations definitely do appear here and really do make you wonder whether or not this could have been a film that could have been adapted and switched around and given a bigger budget and allowed to be a more violent, a more gory, a more intense movie. But at the same time, I don't think this film necessarily needed that to be more effective, because it still had its moments where it was grisly, or it felt like it had some legitimate teeth, or it was sharp. It just lacked some really integral elements to make a special film. The lead is just nothing special, and there's some other stuff going on within the plot that's just not as interesting as other elements, or it's a little bit too predictable at times. But I would recommend the film if it sounds interesting to you, if it sounds like it could be a fun film. It's the kind of thing where if you like Kolchak the Night Stalker, if you like that show with Darren McGavin, you like that kind of storytelling, and you want to get something like that, but it's not Kolchak, I think you'll get a kick out of this. I think this will be something that it'll be right up your alley, because it's the same kind of vibe, the same kind of tone, and the same kind of storytelling, which is why it's just a damn shame that it wasn't an actual Kolchak film. I know that's one of the things I've been saying the most throughout this video, but it's just one of the biggest takeaways I have from this film. It's like, this could have been amazing if it was a Kolchak the Night Stalker movie. But anyway, that's my thoughts on Nightmare on the 13th Floor. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. See ya.